Alrighty, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at our advanced editing assignment. So the first thing we're going to need to do is go to the LMS. Okay, and you guys will find this under day 4, advanced editing assignment. If we scroll down, we've got all the instructions listed below. Okay, and then if you keep going on down, get down to the bottom, here is the session that we're going to want to download. In fact, I believe it is just audio files. So we want to go ahead and click on this. Take a little bit of time to get downloaded. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and unzip that real quick. All right, we should end up with a folder right here like this with these audio files in it. Okay, so let's take a look at the steps. What do we got to do here? So if we scroll back to the top, okay, so here's our advanced editing assignment. So it says read all instructions before you begin. From the LMS, download the APT editing files, which we just did. And then we're going to need to create a new session and do a save as. So we want to create a new session at 24-bit 44.1 using interleaved WAV files. We want that interleaved box checked. And stereo mix IO should be created in the APT folder on your external drive. Okay, and then name the project Pro Tools Editing Assignment. Okay, so if I go to Pro Tools, I've already got it launched. And we're going to want to create a new session. And it said name the project Pro Tools Editing Assignment. Tools Editing. I'll put a space in there. Okay, and it said the settings should be 24-bit 44.1. 44.1. And then also the interleaved box should be checked, and stereo mix should be what the IO is set to, stereo mix. Okay. And I don't think it doesn't really look like it says it in the instructions, but we're going to want to be with BWF right here. And then let's check that interleaved box. Now I am saving this directly into my APT folder. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And there's our session. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what's next. Import the audio files from the download section of this assignment. We're going to want to select all the audio files, and you guys are going to want to copy the audio files to new tracks in the Pro Tools session. So if we go back to Pro Tools, we can import audio by just hitting Shift-Command-I, which is under the File menu. And then you just need to locate that folder that you downloaded, which is right here on my computer. So I'm just going to double-click on that to open it. And then you can simply hit Command-A at this point to select all the audio files. And you want to make sure that you click on Copy. Okay, so this is, I may have mentioned this before, when the files are able to be copied into your session, Add lights up by default. So we want to, which kind of gives you the impression that's what you should do, but it's not in this case. We want to make sure that we click on Copy. It should say Copy next to all these files over here. Okay, and then we're going to hit Done, and it's going to just basically tell us that it's saving it into my audio files folder within the session folder, which is where we want it. And then it's going to ask, do I want new tracks or do I want to put it in the clips list? In the instructions, it said to go ahead and do new tracks, so we'll do that. And in most cases, you're usually going to want it to be at the beginning of the session, so we'll leave that set to session start. And then hit OK. And here it is. There's our session. All right, back to the instructions. Okay, then at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to do create a save as. We're going to label it last name, first name, PTEA. Okay, so let's go back to Pro Tools. And we go to File, and we go to Save As. Okay, they do give us a shortcut for this now that's relatively new. Control Command S, or we can just click on Save As. And then it said to do last name, first name, PTEA, if I'm not mistaken. Let's double check. Yeah, last name, first name, PTEA. And then just hit save. And it basically saves a copy of the Pro Tools of the PTX file that you initially created. Okay. So now if we go back to the instructions, using quick keys, enable keyboard focus. So command option 1. Main counter should be set to minutes and seconds, and the sub counter should be set to bars and beats, and create a stereo master fader and samples. Okay, so my keyboard focus is already engaged. I've already got my main counter set to minutes and seconds, but we are going to want to show the sub counter and make sure that this one is set to bars and beats, which it currently is. And then lastly, we needed to create that master fader, stereo master fader, Shift Command N. Okay. And just so you know, whenever you're creating your master fader is like the master fader that's controlling the main output of your session, you always want that to be stereo. Okay, so stereo master fader, just hitting Command down to go to the type of track, to change the type of track. And then we've got that set to master, and I'm going to hit create. Okay, configuring the playback engine, I/O, output assignments, and mixing. Under the setup menu, choose the appropriate interface in the playback engine. Your headphones should be connected to the interface or your computer. Adjust the hardware buffer size to 512, select dynamic plugin processing, and disable the video engine. So let's just take a look at that real quick. I've got my playback engine. It's currently set to built-in output. If you are using an interface, you can switch that to your Scarlett, for example. And then buffer size, said to set this to 512 samples. It said to check the dynamic plugin processing box and disable the video engine, which is currently not checked. All right, that looks fine. And then under the setup menu, choose I/O. Select the bus tab, delete all outputs and buses. Select default and rename your stereo output to out left, out right, and assign all outputs to out left and out right. Okay, so I think we've done this a few times. We go up to setup, go to I/O, and they said to go to the bus tab, which is right here. And then we're going to hit Command A and then delete. And since these tracks are already routed to this output right here, it's giving us a warning, but that's okay. We can just hit delete and then hit default. And then we want to rename this by just double clicking on it. And we want to call this out left, out right. Okay, just hit return to kind of lock that in, and then hit OK, and you'll notice that all of our tracks gray out. So we need to assign all of them to out, left, and right. So we can do that easily by holding Option, click on the output of any of the tracks, and just assign it to out, left, out, right. And then we should see that on the output of every track, including the master fader, which we do. Alrighty, and then it says to create a rough mix using faders and pans, being sure your peak output is between -10 and -6 dBs on your master fader track. All right, so one of the things I would suggest that you do, if you want to be able to keep an eye on your master fader, click on this little icon right here to the right of the output. It will bring up a floating window version of the master fader. Okay, that'll be helpful. And then if you notice, all the tracks are turned up. I just hit Command equals to go to the mix window. They're all currently up right now. This isn't really how we want to start mixes. We really want to have these all turned down and add, build it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open up the edit group window over here that shows our tracks list. I'm going to turn on the all group, and I'm just going to pull all the faders down. Now, unfortunately, the master fader will go with it, but that's okay. Once I do this, once I pull everything down with this all group selected, make sure that you turn the all group off. I won't need to use that group again for the rest of the session. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring this back up to Unity Gain by option clicking on it. And then now we want to go ahead and start building up our mix. I'm going to go back to the edit window to do this. Okay, and we want to be around -6, -10, -6. Okay. Maybe just a tad bit more. Okay, I'm going to bring the vocal in. Okay, do a little panning on these background vocals here. Okay, these vocals will be coming in a little later. Pan these. Okay, I'm getting right up to about -6 right there. Okay, so there we go. Got a little rough mix, little faders, pan action going on. You can, if you want to EQ or compress, feel free to do that. It's not required in the assignment though. Okay, and then generating a tempo and setting markers. So the tempo is not correct. Play back the instrumental track and count 4 bars of music. Use tab to transient to place the cursor on the kick drum at bar 5. Make sure you are actually on the kick and not the noise before it. Using quick keys, highlight the instrumental clip from the kick on bar 5 back to bar 1, beat 1 by holding shift return. And then use identify beat, Command I, to enter the start and end times of your selection. So the start should be bar 1, beat 1, and it should end at bar 5, beat 1. So if we do that, let's go ahead. Bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, and then this kick drum right here is bar 5. Right there. So I'm going to drop my cursor right in front of it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Make sure tab to transient is turned on. And then I'm going to hit tab until we get to that, right to the kick drum. We don't want to have it before this noise right here. That'll throw the tempo off. So make sure that we're going right to the kick drum and then hit shift return. And that selects the first 4 bars of the song. And then we hit Command I, type in bar 1, beat 1, and the end is bar 5, beat 1. And then when I hit OK, you'll notice our tempo up here will change. There we go, 63.5116 it looks like. Yeah. Okay, so now that we've got our tempo set correctly, you can go back to the instructions. Okay, then add the following markers at these locations. You hit FN return to place a marker. So the quickest way to do this is we want to go to bar 5 and label that one verse 1. And then we want to go to bar 17 and label that chorus 1. So we'll go to bar 5. You can just do that by clicking up here on the main counter, type in 5, hit return. And that's where verse 1 starts. So we hit function return. Type in verse 1. Then just hit return. And there we go. The next one was at bar 17. So again, just click up here on the main counter. Just type in 17, hit return. And we can now hit function return. And this one's supposed to be chorus 1. All right, I think we have a couple more to put in. Bar 25 will be verse 2. Bar 37 will be chorus 2. Okay, so bar 25 is going to be verse 2, function return. And then bar 37 was chorus 2. Function return, chorus 2. And then there was one more after that, I think at bar 45. Yeah, bar 45, name one more called chorus out. 45. Function return, chorus out. All right, so there we go. Back to the instructions. So we're going to do some lead vocal editing using focus mode. Okay, so it says enlarge the lead vocal track, either with the zoom toggle or control up and down arrows. So if we select the lead vocal track, hit control up, make the track a little bit bigger. And then we need to select and delete from 17 seconds, 200 milliseconds, to 17 seconds, 800 milliseconds. And then fade out the clip on the left and fade in the clip on the right. Okay, so we can go up to the top. Up here on our main counter, this is easy to do. We don't really want to try to make the selection with our cursor down here. What I can do is I can just hit return and then go up here and type in 17 seconds and then hit the right arrow key to go to this field right here where the milliseconds are. Type in 200. Okay, and then we could hit return. And we can see that that's where my edit's starting. And then it's supposed to end at 17 seconds, 800 milliseconds. Okay, so if I click on this field right here, I'm going to type in 800. And there's our selection. It was created on the, again, make sure the lead vocal track is selected so that the selection is on the lead vocal track. And then it said to simply delete and do a fade out on the left-hand side. And if we remember from our keyboard focus keynote with keyboard focus enabled, our fade out command is G. And then if I drop my cursor after the beginning of this clip on the right, our fade in command is the letter D. Okay, moving on. Select and delete from 47,500 to 48. And once again, fade out the clip on the left and fade in the clip on the right. Okay, so here we go. We get to use our main counter again. We go to the top, type in 47,500, hit return. And then once again, we go over here to this field The start is correct. We need to just change the end to 48. Return. And again, it said to just delete this and then drop your cursor before the end of this clip and hit the letter G for fade out. And on the right side of the cursor, hit the letter D for fade in. Okay, and then separate. Now we're just going to separate. We're not going to delete. Separate clip at 128.949 and 133. Use clip-based gain and reduce the gain of the new separated region by -7 dB. So we can kind of do the same drill we were doing before. So we need to go from 128.949 to 133. So I'm going to go up to the main counter, type in 128.949 and hit return. And now I just need to change the end field to 133. And I can just hit the letter with keyboard focus engaged to separate. I can just hit the letter B. And there we go. There's our separate region. And then it said to set the clip-based gain -7 dBs. Okay, so we want to turn this down. Again, we need to make sure that we see this, which is viewable under the View menu, under Clip Gain Info. So that needs to be checked right there. Okay, now once we see these faders, we can just go ahead and click on them, turn them down to -7. Now, because of the height of my track, I don't have very high resolution as far as where I can turn this up or down to. So there is a modifier key that we can use to do fine-tune adjustments in Pro Tools, which is Command. Hold Command, and now you can turn it up or down by 1/10 of a dB. There we go. So we're right at -7 dBs. Okay, and then we've got one more edit here. Separate region at 146.939 and 147.255. Okay, so 146.939. So 146.939. And just double check on the end time here. 147.255. 147.255. Okay, and then it tells us that we need to separate the region and use the TCE tool to extend the end of the separated clip to 147.496. Okay, so separate, hit the letter B, zoom in. That'll make it a little bit easier. You don't want to be too far zoomed out. And then we need to turn on the time compression expansion tool, which we can do by clicking on the trimmer tool and holding it, and then go down to the TCE tool. And then we're just going to keep an eye on this up here where it says end. We're going to want this to go to 147.496. Now, since we're in grid mode, when I clicked on it, it tried to snap it to the grid. So one of the things that you can do to temporarily switch to slip mode while you're in grid mode is hold Command. And as you can see, I'm able to freely move my selection here. Okay, so just hold Command if you want to have the session be in slip mode temporarily while you're moving it. So I need to go to 147.496. Okay, we're almost there. There we go. 147.496. And then it says to fade out the clip on the left and fade in the clip on the right. Okay, so let's just fade out. Now, I would strongly recommend that you guys get, disable the time compression expansion tool at this point. So again, just click on up here, choose, go back to the standard tool, And then go ahead and turn your Smart Tool back on. And then we need to do a fade out on this side. Once again, I'm kind of being restricted by the grid lines right now. So I'm going to just hold Command and click, and it allows me, again, to drop my cursor where I want as if I'm in slip mode. And then I'm going to hit G to fade out. And I'm fine with it being on the grid right there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the letter D for fade in. All right, now we're going to move on to strip silence. Open strip silence, Command U, and adjust the following settings as close as possible. So -42, 500. So Command U to open strip silence. We want to set it to -42, 500 milliseconds, and then the start pad 160 milliseconds, and the end pad 335 milliseconds. 160. Now, it won't allow us to go exactly to 160 or to 335. It'll be off by 1 millisecond, which is no big deal. Even if we hold Command, it won't let us get right there. So if your settings are like this, that's perfectly fine. And then we're going to apply the strip silence to backing vocals 1 through 8. So we're going to select all clips on backing vocals 1 through 8 from 102 to 133. Okay, so 102. Well, let's select all the background vocals first. So here's background vocal 1, all the way down to background vocal 8. So I'm just going to hold Shift and select that. And then we need to go from 102. Okay, that's where it's going to start. And then we're going to have the end of our selection be at 133, return. Okay, and if we sort of zoom out, we can see how strip silence is able to identify where audio is playing, and then it's going to strip out where there isn't any audio. Okay, so we want to apply the strip silence. Let's do that. So again, at this point, if we want to strip out the silence, we just click on strip. And then what we want to do is we want to create a clip group with these selected clips, Option Command G, and then we're going to Option drag a copy of the clip group to align with the second hook. Okay, so let's hit Option Command G. Now it says that we need to align this with the second hook. So what we're going to need to do at this point is we really need to listen to this so that we have a good idea of when these vocals happen in the chorus. Okay, so I'm going to drop my cursor ahead of the vocals a little bit, and let's listen to this. Okay, now on the lead vocal, she's saying, "I walked out on you." And then on these background vocals, after she says, "I walked out on you," then these vocals say, "But I'd do anything." So you got to get a feel for where these background vocals will land. Okay, so I have a feel for it. Again, you guys have to use your ears a little bit with this. But what we're going to do now is we're going to just Option drag this over to chorus 2 in the general vicinity. So we're just going to hold Option and drag until we get to about chorus 2, right around there. Probably just, you might want to move it a little bit right after the marker there. Let's zoom in. And let's see if they're falling in the right place. I have a feeling they're early because it looks like she probably says, "I walked out on you." It looks like she's still singing it. It looks like the vocals come in before she's done singing it. But let's listen to it. Let's just double check. Yeah, they're too early. So I can just simply grab these, move them a little bit later. Okay, now they're a little bit late. So what I'm going to need to do at this point is if I Hold Command. I can now move this like I'm in slip mode. I need to move them a little bit earlier. Maybe right around there somewhere. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're shooting for. As you can see, right about where this one ends is where these should start. Okay, cool. Sounds good. As long as you guys get pretty close like that, you'll be fine. All right, and this says go back to grid mode. I don't ever remember switching out of grid mode. And then add a fade out to the group. So if we just zoom out a little bit, drop our cursor near the end of it, we can just hit the letter G to fade out. And that's it. So at this point, we want to do a save copy in and check all the audio files box under items to copy at the bottom of the save window. Compress the project folder and zip the labeled as a zip labeled last name, first name, PTEA. So again, you guys remember save copy in is up here under file. Go to save copy in and check the audio files box. And then once you hit OK, it will give you the opportunity to name it. It will create a brand new session with all of the corresponding audio files in it. Okay, so again, remember, make sure that you go to File, go to Save Copy In, and make sure you check the audio files box right here. Everything else should be able to be left the same. And then hit OK. Make sure you're saving it somewhere where you can find it. And then once you save it, it'll take a little while to process it, and then you'll have a folder with the proper name on it. Just go ahead and compress that file and upload it to the LMS at that point. Alrighty, so hopefully that helps you guys out with the assignment. Please do your best to get this done and turned in by the due date. Okay, thanks.